Our next speaker, Danny Tabor, also has a story to tell. Danny, are you here? And then reach up a microphone.
And thank you, Beverly White, for walking us through this process. When Susie asked me about providing some testimony, and I looked at the panelists, I realized that everyone on the panel could make the arguments that we who are providing testimony make. But I want to change it up slightly and push at you a little more. The comment made earlier that what we're experiencing is an affordable housing crisis, I think should be the center point for the work we do from here. I grew up in an America where home ownership was the American dream. And now in my state, here in California, I see legislation that suggests that the dream not only should not be deferred, but it should be destroyed. It should be eliminated. And in its place should be a new standard of corporatization and commodification of housing, meaning moving it from the right of the individual or the family in a community to making it an asset of a corporate tax structure or corporate bottom line. That we are now, as individuals, competing not just to own a home with other people who've gone to college or got a job or raising a family, but we're competing with corporations, investor groups, and foreign companies that are coming here because they can't do what they want to do in the countries where they exist. And yet, no one is really suggesting, except now, I'll suggest it, that we change the rules some and we become more protective of the rights of individuals to live out the American dream, to have the opportunity in their neighborhoods, either where they grew up or in those communities that are being developed in the suburbs or in those new neighborhoods that are being revitalized in downtowns, that they have the opportunity to acquire a home that they can raise a family in and live out a life in, and accrue as many as my parents did and many in the Black community have done, to use the home as a tool by which they accrue wealth and create a legacy for their families. We are unable to do that because housing is not affordable, not just in Los Angeles, but nowhere in the United States. It has been commodified. We are competing, and I'm just repeating this because in the educational practice, I'm an adjunct faculty in the Los Angeles Community College District, and one of the things my friends who teach in LA Unified School District remind me is, you gotta say it 3 times so that they'll remember it. So I'll make this point very quickly. We have to find a way, and the way is commitment, intentional commitment, to focus on making housing affordable. And that's gonna drive us to look clearly and closely at the elements that make housing unaffordable. That's the competitive nature in the capitalistic market that allows the wealthy, and I'm not speaking of individuals now, I'm going back to make this point, the corporations, the investor groups, the hedge funds, the banking partnerships that created the housing crisis in the mid-2000s, now seeking an opportunity to take another bite at the apple by changing and eliminating what we've come to know as single-family zoning, by declaring that all of a sudden it's exclusionary. Well, it's exclusionary now that those communities that were once not allowed Black ownership or brown ownership or Black and brown, all of a sudden that's a problem. But in those communities in East Los Angeles, South Los Angeles, Inglewood, Compton, Long Beach, that are single-family neighborhoods, are families who have been building wealth, are working people who have worked hard to earn the opportunity to buy a single-family home to raise their families, and now all of a sudden we want to suggest that that should not exist anymore. I have 3 children, 31 to 27. Each of them is looking at how they can save their meager earnings from working their jobs and put resources together so they can buy a home. They've only lived in California. They've only lived in Los Angeles County. They will have a very difficult time, no matter what I do and what resources I bring to the table, to buy a home in Los Angeles County unless there is a fundamental change in the structure of home finance and the resources that are made available. Final point. This problem, affordable housing, cannot be solved top down. And while I have tremendous respect for the members of the state legislature, those that I truly respect began as organizers, working with people in the community. The solution to the affordable housing crisis that we are experiencing is going to require they come back to those communities and work with housing advocates and work with people in neighborhoods and work with homeowners and work with renters. The final thing I'll say is, if we really want to address immediately and make an impact, the one thing that the California legislature can do right now and cities around the state can do right now is to reinstate the tax credits that renters had in the late 70s and 80s so that we can make their environment, with 80% of the state being renters, we can make renters, we can provide some tax relief for renters so that they can make their living experience affordable. Rents have continued to increase every year, no tax relief for renters, and yet landlords, property owners can write off the expenses if there really is an expense with no responsibility to make any true improvements to the asset. But renters live in that environment, and that's who's living in these communities. Single-family home ownership, tax relief for renters begins the process of addressing the affordable housing crisis and really makes it very plain that housing is a human right when we address the needs of the humans in those houses.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much.